everyone. Thank you everyone for joining. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the January 5th, 2023 meeting of CB11's Environment, Open Space and Parks Committee. My name is Jessica Elliott and I'm the chair of the committee. This meeting is called to order at 6:33 p.m. Tonight we are joined by Assistant District Manager Khalid Nixon, the staff liaison to our committee. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. CB11 members, if you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. If you click the participants icon, the participants panel should appear and you should find the raised hand function there. If you still have technical difficulty, you can click the chat icon and relay your difficulty to the staff. The chat function should not be used for CB11 business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information like an email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. When a member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you can speak. Please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. Members of the public, if you have a question or comment about the subjects on the agenda, please raise your hand through Zoom and wait to be recognized. We will now take attendance by roll call.
Okay, members. So to recap, there are 12 members in total, and we need 7 to achieve quorum. Diane Collier. Jessica Elliott.
Present.
David Giordano. He might be running late. Alonzo Johnson. Jewel Jones.
Present.
Thank you. Connie Lee.
Present.
Thank you. Malik McCullough.
Present.
Thanks. Debbie Quinones. Okay. Natasha Rodriguez.
Present.
Thank you. Russell Schuler.
Present.
Thank you. Michelle Wiltshire Clement.
Present.
Thank you. And Jordan Wright has said that she may be arriving late, so I'll hold off on that. But Chair, you have currently 7 members and you have quorum.
Okay,
Yeah,
Diane.
I joined in.
Oh.
Just joined.
Oh, Diane, I'm sorry. Thank
That's
you very
okay.
much. You're marked as present. We have 8 members total.
Great, thank you, Khalid. Thank you to everyone for being on time and Happy New Year. And I hope you all have been well and all of that jazz. So we're gonna keep it moving. I know we have a lot on the agenda tonight. So we'll go with the adoption of the agenda. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and was posted online. If there's no objection, we'll adopt the agenda as stated. Committee members, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from our last meeting were distributed to committee members ahead of time by the board office. If there's no objection, we will adopt the minutes from that meeting. Committee members, if you object to adopting the minutes, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Excuse my animals. Seeing no objections, the minutes from the last Environment, Open Space and Parks Committee meeting are adopted. They will soon be available on the CB11 website. Great. So we'll roll into our first items, which is our announcements. So just as a few quick things, I know there's a lot of words on this page, I'm sorry. There is a link here, sanitationfoundation.org to I guess, apply to be part of a class for the Sanitation Foundation through DSNY. Maybe Marissa, if you're knowledgeable about this, you can speak more to this, but this was something that was shared to me that I applied for, and I hope that others on the committee and in the public who are interested might apply so that we can gain this knowledge for our community as we move forward. Are there any questions? Or Marissa, would you like to make any comments about that?
No other additional comments. It's our Zero Waste Academy. It's a really nice program. You enroll, you get a little certificate. It's a really nice way to get involved if you would like to.
Thank you so much. Our second announcement, Michelle, go ahead.
I'm just curious, what time is the course? Like, what hours of the day?
I think it varies based on the days, but it's a multi-day course. I think some happen on the weekends, and I think the times vary. I would check the website.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, let's move on to our next item. All right, so this is an item that the community board has an opportunity to submit comment for. We had previously looked into this a couple years ago, I think in 2019, with the 5G and all of that. And I think, we just wanted to make this the Office of Technology and Innovation in City Bridge announcement aware to the public and to our committee that they're installing these link kiosks at a couple points in our neighborhood. We reached out to, for example, Mount Sinai to make sure that these were okay. And, the consensus was that, these are going to be helpful for, at least the constituents that we've talked to. So our position is that we are not necessarily going to make any comment. So just wanted to bring that up and see and make sure there are no major concerns or questions or elements that we might need to address with this. Connie?
I think we need to share this information with the Mount Morris Park Community Improvement Association because they are proposing to install these in a historic district.
Okay, great to know.
So visually or something like that, there may be objections to it. I'll get you an email.
Thank you so much.
Just forward it to them.
Hi, Connie, it's Jana. Thanks so much Hi, Happy New Year. Thanks so much for thinking about that. Madeline and I were actually chatting today about it, Jessica, and just there are some concerns about locations and also questions about, what these towers might be emitting. So there are, and, Mount Morris Park West, part of the beauty of that boulevard is that it's so wide. And it continues to just be having a lot of things installed on Mount Morris Park West, whether it's the city bikes, the COVID testing, parking, whatever it is. So there are some questions that I think MMPCIA, to Connie's point, would love to talk with you about.
Great. Thank you so much to you both. Once we get that information, we'll reach out and just confirm. Thank you so much. Michelle?
I was curious to continue with that conversation on radiation involvement. Is there anything with the 5G that was brought up last month, not last week, last year even? And how large would these kiosks be? And if they will be closer to residential spaces as was that 5G tower that went up that was 3 stories high?
Yeah, these are the kiosks, the ones that you see around with the the ports so you can charge your phone and things. You know what those look like?
Are these the Link kiosks?
Yeah.
Okay, not
Oh, those
the
little
tall
tiny-
towers.
The thin ones.
No, not the thin ones.
Michelle, the 5G cell towers that you're referring to, that might be up for discussion in the Public Safety and Transportation Committee meeting next week, Thursday. But I'll check in on some email correspondence because I know we're talking what you're referring to in terms of the design, and try to share that with you tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No worries.
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks, Khalid. Diane?
So I'm really just following up on Michelle. Point of clarification, what do these kiosks look like? Because I'm getting confused. I know there's the 5G, I know the towers, I know the board heard some concerns about it that's being put up to the Upper East Side. So do we have anything that have a description of what's about to happen here? So
what we're talking about right now is just the kiosk. So Khalid, I don't know if it's possible to pull up a picture of what the
I'm sorry, Jessica. Are you talking the regular kiosks that we have that is already positioned in the community?
Like with the screens and you can charge your phone
Right,
and
right. That one, those. Are those the ones we're talking about, or
Yes.
are they these 5G
No,
connections?
it's the Link NYC kiosks.
To Connie's point, I do think that the Mount Morris needs to also hear what's going on. They may or may not want this in
Yep.
their area.
Great, loud and clear. We will reach out. Thank you. All right, we will move on to our informational updates. So today we have our city agencies. We can start out with parks, if that's okay, and then we'll move to sanitation.
Okay, sure. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Jana.
Happy New Year. Yes, hi, Jessica. Jana here, Administrator of Historic Harlem Parks, Marcus Garvey. So we've been a mulch site. So 120th and Madison, if you're taking down your Christmas trees this weekend, you can drop them there. Other than that, we'll be also taking the Christmas lights down on the trees. We will miss them. We are working on some improvement plans for the spring. And I will be inviting CB11 to come out to the east end of the Marcus Garvey pool, where we have been building out an exciting new venture that I may have mentioned briefly before. We're planning to do a soft launch of it in the spring. It's a horticultural plant and programming center. We'll finally be utilizing the formerly closed east end of the Marcus Garvey pool. As I understand from locals and veterans and MMPCIA and Marcus Garvey Park Alliance, that end of the pool has been closed for almost a decade. So we're really excited to have that be a useful, beautiful space to cultivate plants for our park, to invite horticultural folks from Uptown community to use the space for events and programming. We'll be offering programming to teach people about plants and planting. We'll be having art events around horticulture and just be open to your ideas. So look forward, Jessica, to an invitation soon to CB11 to come on out, okay? Probably after the cold weather. March, we're thinking early March.
Great, thank you, Jana. Are
Thank
there
you.
any questions for New York City Parks? Please raise your hand through Zoom. Michelle?
At this point of comment, I just think that it's such a lovely thing to do, and I'm excited about it. So please keep me posted.
Yes, the more the merrier. Thank you so much. We're really excited about it too. And just a note there that Green Thumbs and Partnership for Parks have already expressed deep excitement about this because our Uptown community has really lacked a meeting, a meetup spot for all of the gardeners in Harlem. And we're looking forward to this being a game changer.
Great. Any other questions for New York City Parks? Please raise your hand. Okay, great. Short and sweet this month. Thank you, Jana. All right, we'll move on to DSNY. Marissa?
Hey, good evening, everybody. Marissa Yanni from the Department of Sanitation. 2 updates. The first one is very quick. Starting tomorrow, the 6th up until the 14th, we will be collecting Christmas trees, real Christmas trees. So if anybody has them in their home, just take all the ornaments off of it, the lights, don't put the base out. You don't need to wrap it, just leave it curbside and we'll come pick it up. Second, which I think is why I'm actually here tonight, is for the M11 garage. I have a few updates. It may not be everything you want. I always like to preface when I'm bringing bad news to M11 because it seems to happen more often than I like. So of course you all know, hopefully, we got the brand new garage that opened up on 127th Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenues. We opened up mid-December, right before Christmas. I think everyone knows the old location was on 99th Street. It's currently empty. Part of the museum should still be in there, but otherwise there's no other trucks there. We do reserve the right to use that space as needed to address any fleet issues. At the new location on 127th, you're correct, there were some trucks on the street. We're actively engaged with some government, with some of the city agencies to find a suitable spot for those trucks in the area. I will come back with another update on that. And we're just looking around to see, just to ensure that no trucks are on the street. So we're looking around at other folks that are in the neighborhood to help us find a spot for them. This is not the best update, but it is what I have for right now. I know someone did, well, Khalid asked me about doing a tour. Councilman Ayala's office reached out to me about that as well. That is in the works. We do want to do that. We're just going to wait a little bit longer for that. At the moment, I don't have a timeline on that. I wait for senior staff to let me know when that can happen. I would assume we probably don't want to do it during the winter when we are actively in winter operations and snow mode. So probably closer to April. Hopefully we can get that in the books. I'm hoping sooner than that, but I think spring might be our best bet at that point. And we haven't had a major update with the CAG, because I know, Jessica, you're in that, you know, the community board is part of that. Once I get more information, we'll make sure we put another meeting on the books to further discuss. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Marissa. Just to confirm, you mentioned there was no DSNY truck parking ongoing at the 99th Street location. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's currently empty on the inside. Yeah, we have nothing else. We shouldn't have anything there. I think we have that small lot. We have that small lot on 99th Street and First Avenue that was like right next to the garage. I think there still might be some equipment there. I have not been up there to confirm that, but there's so many hands. I'm so scared. That's the only place that should have vehicles or equipment.
Okay. Yep. I'm going to pass it over to the group. And just a reminder, if everyone could be succinct and germane with their questions, we will have a lot of questions. So just if we could move it along. Michelle and then Jewel.
I just passed by that station on 127th Street, quite lit. My specific question is are the trees that will be collected, will they be mulched or will they be put in landfills?
Oh no, mulched. They're gonna go to our compost facility. I think the one in Staten Island. I don't think we're putting them anywhere else. Yeah, we have our Christmas tree truck. We'll take care of all their compost material and it'll be mulched. Yeah, correct.
And that mulch would be divided towards the different parks so that the parks can use them equally? Yeah. I mean, I don't know specifically how we separate it out, but yes, that's the goal. It goes right back to New York City, to schools and to parks. Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, Michelle. Jewel, and then Diane.
Yeah, I just want to, so I actually live right there. I see that the garage is closed. There's that one remaining truck. And I don't know if you know, if you know Billy, I spoke to DSNY person and there's one remaining truck, sanitation truck. And he said that has to be towed. I guess it can't just be relocated to the new site at 128th Street. But but I just want to ask about whether I personally would like a tour, whether that's possible, of the 128th Street location. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I'm hoping we can get a tour on the books. Well, first, Councilman Ayala's office reached out about it. So I don't know if we'll be doing one with her or we're going to do two, like one for members of the community board and then another one for the council. I'm still waiting on clearance on that. You know, I always like to be as upfront as possible. So I don't have an answer on that yet. But yes, that would be the goal. I would like to get in there as well. Yes, would love to do a tour. Again, like I said earlier, I don't know if we're waiting for after snow season for us, just because at a moment's notice, you know, it could be canceled, it could be this and that. We have a lot of personnel running around. So we might have to wait till the spring.
And I'm sorry, I have one other question. In terms of your comment about you reserve the right to use the space at 99th Street, what would you use that space for? What purpose?
I think it's just to leave equipment. I don't see any other reason that we would be in there because we totally moved away, because we totally moved into the new one. I think if we were just needed to park another vehicle or if we needed to use that lot, at the moment, it still belongs, it's still kind of ours until we give it over to the hospital officially. I don't know the timeline on that or when the hospital is going to start using it for their means. So I think that's the only other update I have on that.
And are you two communicating about these things? What's the level of communication between health and hospitals and DSNY?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. That is above me. I apologize. I don't have an answer for that.
All right,
I'm
thank
sorry.
you.
Wasn't
you,
ready
thank
for
you.
that one. Sorry.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Diane, and then Malik.
So I'm gonna be as nice as I can, Marissa, with what I'm about to say. Yeah, because
I've respected you for a long time, Diane. I'll appreciate that.
I know. So one of the issues that was on the table when we totally denied giving you guys this space so many years ago, it seems like, was the fact that there was not supposed to be any trucks on the street.
Yep.
And this concerns me even more when you start talking about looking for an area, looking for a location in the area when most of those particular locations are either inhabited by green space, a school, two churches, the empty lots or EDC property. So I'm trying to, where are you going to put these extra trucks? I mean, I'm being real, so that's why I said I'm not going to be so nice, but I think I am being kind of nice tonight.
You are being truly nice. I got scared when you raised your hand.
It's really not a laughing matter when you start to think about, I don't know how many trucks. I haven't been over in the area.
Correct.
But I'm certainly going to start taking walks in that area. And certainly they did not live up to the points of agreement. This is beyond just the trucks we're talking about, talks about the consolidated sanitation area. So I'm totally displeased as someone who is in that community. It's not what I wanted to hear. And I'm sure
100%.
everybody else. So the question I have, where are you guys gonna put these trucks? Because there's no place really to put them.
I agree. I have not been told where we're putting the trucks. I want to be very honest with you. I was not told where we're putting the trucks. From what I understand, our operations office is coming to an agreement with another agency. I don't fully know what that means or where they're going to go. The second I find out, I'm going to tell Jessica and Angel and the council member and make sure it gets sent down to all of you. The second I know.
I can speak to this in its entirety because if Catherine Garcia, who was the commissioner at the time for sanitation, can come down to city planning to testify, then the current commissioner of sanitation should come up here to talk with the chair of Community Board 11 and Angel and whoever else and Jessica to say, where are we on this? Because the points of agreements are not being adhered to.
I understand you completely. And you have every right to ask, I don't know if Jessica wants to, I don't know how that works in the committee, but 100%. If that's a letter that's asking us to formally for her to come to a meeting with all of you, 100%.
And Jessica, what I'm saying is actually true. You can go to any of the archives. The sanitation commissioner, Catherine Garcia, at the time did come down to city planning to advocate for this area, for this particular location. So if they can do that, they can come up to see you guys.
Great. That's a great option. Thank you, Diane. Malik and then Xavier.
I just have a couple of questions. One, who else is that area occupied by, that space?
The garage on 127th, the new one?
Yeah, yes.
It's just for Manhattan 11.
No, meaning, is there any other companies or anything like that in that Potamkin space from 127th Street to 128th Street?
Can I take that? Can I take that? Let me take that, Malik. It's Potamkin. It's Potamkin and King's Chapel Church.
So
Potamkin.
is more than one. So what space do y'all actually occupy? Is this a little portion of that space?
I believe it's, I don't think it's the full block of 127 between 2nd and 3rd. I don't think it's the full city block.
So let me take that again for you, Marissa. It's the midway, Malik, of the block between Potamkin and between King's Chapel.
Okay, from the church.
Correct. From
You
the
said
church, from the
to
church
the middle part.
to the middle part to Potamkin. Middle, because Potamkin's got the rest of it for their buses. Where they some buses, I think there's some kind of disabled buses that they
No, I got you.
Accessorize.
my next question was, what when Department of Sanitation decided to um build their facility there, did they come to us to let us know what type of facility that y'all were doing?
I was not working at Department of Sanitation when that happened, but yes, we put together a community advisory group and got suggestions on locations, and this was the only location our real estate team was able to viably purchase, and well, we're leasing it, but that we were able to actually get.
No, I said what type of facility. I'm not talking about the space. I'm
So
talking about.
let me take this again, if you don't mind, Jessica.
Yep, go ahead, Diane.
Because I
Thank
can
you.
speak to experience on this one, Malik. Yes, the full board had a meeting, and the full board had a community meeting. Your father was one of the what's the strongest advocate we had in saying that that we didn't need it, we didn't want it. The community itself, the community board took a vote of no on this, almost unanimous. But yeah, what you're asking is, did they come to the community? Yes. Did they come to the board? Yes. Did we try to work it out with them? Yes, but we didn't, so we just took a no vote on it.
So what I was trying to get to was the type of facility, because even if they decided to do it, the type of facility could have helped us out even better, as far as it being for a cleaner air and green space and those type of things. Meaning they could have went up in as far as in the development, so that they can park their trucks, etc. So my point is like, what planning came involved when you actually decided to put the space there? Because now it's more of like a slap in our face when now we see trucks, or you don't know where trucks is gonna go or be or where they can be, and then you may reserve the right to put some more stuff back downtown, I guess, until the hospital takes over. So that's why I'm kind of lost at, and that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
How how did that come into play? Diane, this is for you again, or this is for her?
I think,
I'm
based
let
on,
Jessica handle this.
thank you. Yeah, I think over the course of time, Marissa mentioned and Diane mentioned there's the CAG, and a bunch of, options were looked at for the location. And then this was decided to be the only location that was viable. And then it moved towards a temporary facility because this location, is still not the desirable location. And there's I think DSNY has noted in the, statement of district needs responses that the funds for the dual district garage are not yet available. So the comments that we've made since these, conversations have been ongoing is that, what is the point of building a temporary facility in what seems to be, or is argued to be the only site that's, admissible for this use. So if you're going to use a site, we've been arguing that you might as well go ahead and do the dual district garage that we were promised. But that, has not been the path forward. This is, intended to be a temporary solution, and that the search is still ongoing for a site, or if this still remains a site that they, would eventually do the dual district garage. But in my mind, you don't build a building for less than 10 plus years, right? It's, this temporary garage, could be here for decades. So we've asked the Department of Sanitation for, what is their plan for the dual district consolidated garage that was promised through the points of agreements. And at this time, we haven't received an answer as to what the plan is to get that facility. Yeah, so, we're continuing to follow up with DSNY. I think it would be helpful if, Marissa, if you could relay to your superiors that, these are the kind of questions that we'd like to get answered. And to reiterate that.
Quite often.
Yeah, and just to reiterate that, the agreement was that there would be no street parking. There would be no, use of equipment or trucks at the previous location on 99th Street. So it's unfortunate to hear that there will still be uses of that site. And it would be helpful if DSNY could clearly communicate when the timeline is that land is being handed over to health and hospitals, so that we have an understanding of when the commitments, that we made together with no parking and trucks in that location would be, confirmed. And similarly, the location, on 127th Street, the agreement was also that there would be no trucks on the street. And of course, we've seen images from the public and from the CAG with trucks lining that street and vehicles parked on the sideway. We did a tour a couple months ago, maybe it was many months ago at this point. And it's the conditions over there are bad enough as it is. Like, there was a literal fire in the tree pit while we walked by the sanitation garage. So, the level of care that needs to be provided to this area of our community needs to be at the level, of people live near there. There's parks near there. There's community-based organizations there. The commitments about parking need to be fulfilled, and the commitments for the dual district garage need to be fulfilled. Xavier.
Hi, thank you very much for everyone's comments. And I want to thank all of the board members and the members of the public who've shared information and bear witness. Diane, thank you. You're saving me a lot of time. And as well, Jess, thank you. It's an unfortunate series of events because it's not just, oftentimes we beat up on DSNY, but I'll be very frank, as it comes to points of agreement, this is an issue that we need to see some follow through, because as has been lamented, items that have been cited here temporarily often become permanent, and that is an ongoing issue that this community has faced for generations. We had a presentation by our land use consultant, George James, where a recommendation for a permanent site, which is held on publicly available land, city-owned land, right next on Randall's Ward Island, right next to the FDNY site, was a viable source. The only one really pushing back was FDNY, because even though it's not their property designated for their use, they do use it for auxiliary storage. That being said, I will say that having the fact that Catherine Garcia was able to give testimony, and I think it's important for the commissioner at DSNY to also come and attend so they can witness what's happening to our community. We have one of the highest rates of asthma. We are really trying to improve that entire from northwest to northeast part of the corridor from 125th Street on north. And I think it's crucial for our collective success and interagency relationships that we come together and find a long-term tenable solution, because at this point in time, there is a lack of follow through. And I'm being as ginger as I can with it all, but we really must impress that. And I'm more than pleased to send a letter requesting that official attendance and a site visit together. And going back to the site visit, I'm on the emails. I think Jess is as well. If not, we'll make sure that's there. But I think all of us going for a walkthrough as well will help shed light on the situation, so we can then plot a course. Benchmarks can be placed in at the appropriate timeline. So that's going to be the request, and not just to send back to your superiors, but make sure it goes up the chain beyond the intergov side and it goes up all the way to the deputy commissioner and commissioner. Okay.
Thank you, Xavier.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before I give space for anyone else in the public or anyone who would like to raise their hand to ask a question, I wanted to ask of my committee if there's any interest to do a letter to request the DSNY commissioner to attend our upcoming meeting and for a site visit of the facility.
Yes.
Jewel, would you like to make a motion?
Motion to what you just said. A motion to have the current DSNY commissioner, Commissioner Tisch, attend a meeting of the Environmental Open Space and Parks Committee ASAP.
And for the tour?
Oh, and for the tour as well. ASAP.
ASAP. Before I go for a second, Natasha, is that a second or a question?
No, that was a second.
Okay, second from Natasha. All right. Khalid, if we could take a motion.
Yes, give me 1 second.
No problem. And I didn't see any questions from the public, but just want to give you one last chance while we have DSNY on the line.
I'm ready to call the roll, Jessica, when you're.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Diane Collier,
Now, you
Diane?
know I'm gonna say yes. You know I'm gonna
Oh.
say yes.
Okay. Jessica Elliott,
Yes.
David Giordano is still not present. Alonzo Johnson is absent. Jewel Jones,
Yes.
Connie Lee,
Yes.
Malik McCullough,
Yes.
Debbie Quinones is absent. Natasha Rodriguez,
Yes.
Russell Schuler,
Yes.
Michelle Wiltshire Clement.
Yes.
Jordan Wright is, oh, Jordan, you're present.
Yeah, I'm here, yes.
Okay, perfect. You have a unanimous decision in favor, Chair.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much, Marissa, for coming. We know it's not fun, and I'm sorry that your job is this hard. Hopefully we can find solutions moving forward together, and looking forward to finding that solution together.
All right, have a good night.
Thank you. All right, are there any other city agencies present that would like to give an update? Please raise your hand. Otherwise, we'll move to our parks advocacy groups. If there's a park advocacy group present, would like to give an update, please raise your hand. David?
All right. Hi, Jessica. Happy New Year. I'll be pretty quick. Over the hand. First thing though, I want to introduce someone else who's on here, Jennifer Wainwright. She is the communications manager for the Randall's Island Park Alliance, and we'll likely be seeing her sometimes in the future, presenting here and kind of to do these updates as well, kind of helping me out. So Jen is great, and so she just wanted to make that introduction before I did that. So next time when she's here, you'll know who she is. Real quick for us, it's kind of like a little bit of our downtime in the winter, but we are gearing up towards the spring. And this is the time, literally this week, we posted a series of jobs on Randall's Island's website. They're both seasonal, full-time, seasonal and year-round in many different departments. We also have a couple of internship opportunities with our natural areas team, paid internships for high school and college age kids who may be interested in STEM and that sort of thing. So I am going to just put the link in here and just, have a look at it. Anyone who may be interested, I obviously think we're a great organization to work for. So if you know anyone who's interested in being outside, there's a bunch of different types of departments that are posting. So they just went up, so they're fresh. So please have a look and share far and wide. And then aside from that, and I think Jessica Ann Wilson emailed you and Angel. We're very excited to get the completed community forest management plan back finally. It was thankful for CB11's support back a couple of years ago when we put in for the grant. And I believe the plan is that they're actually going to come and present it in February to the board, and they'll have all the details of it then. But it was a really, really exciting plan to put together. We work closely with New York City, with Parks Forestry, Manhattan Forestry in particular, as well as having arborists. And so it just gives us a great idea of, what trees we have on the island, best, practices for maintaining them and making sure that they stay healthy, as well as what locations in the park are viable for future plantings and what types. So it'll be exciting. I think it'll be a great presentation next month. And aside from that, there's really not much else. Again, as I said, we're kind of just gearing up for the spring and getting everything in place. So happy to, if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, David. Nice to see you, and I'm looking forward to Jennifer being in attendance, but we'll miss
Yes.
you when you're not here. So thanks for being
I'll
here.
still be around.
Great. Jewel, and then if you have any questions, please raise your hand for Randall's Island Park Alliance.
Yes, Jessica, is it appropriate to ask
Yes.
the question? Okay. So Hello, David.
Hey.
One of my other hats is as a member of We Act for Environmental Justice. And last year they held an event there, a 5K on
Okay.
Randall's Island. And they wish to hold the same event, and as it relates to CB11, they want to collaborate with CB11, but I'm speaking about Randall's Island at the moment. So they wish to have the event again there this year, April 22nd. How does one, so they would like to go through the same process they went to?
So is that the Earth Day 5K?
Yes.
Was that the one?
Yes, it is. Yes, it
I
is.
believe they've already submitted a permit.
So, okay, so
I
it's all
think
set?
one of the challenges, and the truth is that we don't tend to do a lot of 5Ks in the spring, just because that's when we have the outdoor track season at the stadium. So it makes it hard to kind of dual track those. So we have, particularly on weekends, we have like, you know, multiple meets going on at the stadium. So our staff is really kind of involved in that. I know that that permit is in for April 20th for the Earth Day 5K. I will speak with Laniqua in our office, who's kind of the one who kind of works on the roadways. I know, but I do know, like, we do like to prefer the road races in kind of summer, fall, when we don't have the track going, because it makes it hard to do the two at the same time. It just really, that area becomes overwhelmed. But do you remember how big it was? How many people did you have running in it?
Thousands. No, I'm joking.
I was gonna be like, oh.
No, it was, I don't know, a couple of hundred.
Okay, we can, if you want to reach out to me,
Okay.
you know, we don't have to do this here. I know Jessica's got a full agenda for everyone. So
Yes.
I'm happy to pick up the conversation if you want to reach out tomorrow or next week, and we'll see what we can do. But I did see that permit in there, so I'm pretty sure whoever did, I believe the application's already in.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I thank you for your patience.
No problem.
Everybody.
Great. Thank you both. I don't see any other hands. So thank you so much, David, for being here.
No problem.
And we'll see you next time. All right. Are there any other community-based organizations who would like to give an informational update? Please raise your hand. I just want to confirm if there's anyone here from Green Thumb. No. All right. Well, then we'll move on to our first presentation. Our first presentation is an informational presentation on the Million More Trees campaign from the Manhattan Borough President's Office. We've talked about this a little bit before, so excited to hear this presentation to move this forward.
Okay, great. And I don't know if my colleague Keisha Smith from, are you here? Keisha, do you want to say hi and then I'll dive in? I didn't know if you were available.
Thanks so much, Emily. Jessica, thank you so much for that intro. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. I'm Keisha Smith with the Manhattan Borough President's Office. Emily and I are here to chat with you about trees and our Million More Trees initiative. Emily, who is the dynamic New York City's programs director at the Nature Conservancy, has been an amazing partner for our office throughout this entire effort as we try to garner community board support. So I'll kick it back over to Emily, who'll be leading our presentation tonight, and then I'll jump back in once she wraps up.
Thanks so much, Keisha, and thanks to everybody for having me here. If it's okay, I'll share my screen and let's just see if I can get in there and then actually start this presentation for you all. Hold on one second. So as Keisha said, I am Emily Maxwell. I'm the city's program director at the Nature Conservancy in New York. We are a global conservation organization. We operate in more than 70 countries, but I'm from and love New York City. And about 10 years ago, we launched a program right here in New York City. Our mission is to conserve the lands and waters on which all life depends. And I'm really proud to say that many of our partners, I've already heard from today, Randall's Island Park Alliance, representatives from We Act. So I feel like we're in very good company with the terrific leaders on this call. Many of you probably are aware, given your committeeship, that climate change is a major threat to New York City. We're anticipating that by the 2080s, we'll have 3 to 5 times the number of extreme heat days. And we know that Black New Yorkers are more than two times as likely to die as their other counterparts in the city. So we know that these dynamics aren't equal. We also know that there's going to be more flooding. I do apologize for my dog talking in the background. He'll probably quiet down in a moment here. But because of these major issues, we launched an initiative called Future Forest NYC. We analyze the state of the urban forest. We partner with other organizations to protect, maintain, and enhance the urban forest. We convene the Forest for All NYC Coalition, and we are advancing together the New York City Urban Forest Agenda. And we were very excited to partner with Borough President Levine's office when they launched the Million More Trees initiative, because we saw a natural synergy with their work and with our New York City Urban Forest Agenda. I'm going to sort of dazzle you with a whole bunch of pretty pictures and slides. I'm going to run through them quickly. I hope we'll have more time for conversation. Urban heat island is a huge threat to the health and well-being of New Yorkers. We know that extreme heat is the #1 weather-related killer in the United States. And we know that areas where we have more vegetation, and on the left, you'll notice a map that where there's more green, there's more vegetation of both trees and grass and shrubs. And on the right, you'll see a temperature map, and where you have those sort of angry yellows and reds, that's where things are hotter. And where we have more vegetation, we tend to have lower temperatures. And this is tremendously important because this is not distributed equally. We believe that the urban forest contains all of the over 7 million trees in New York City and their physical and social infrastructure. And these trees cross all jurisdictions. So you've already talked about different property kinds in your community district. We know that they cross parkland, of course, but also other city, state, and federal land and private property. Our urban forest helps us with pollution. It stores and sequesters carbon, mitigating climate change. It can decrease both surface and air temperatures. It can help us feel better when we walk on the streets. When we get outside and take care of trees, it can actually connect us to each other. Greener streets have more kids and adults outdoor playing, recreating, facilitating their own health. It helps absorb stormwater. And of course, if you like some other critters, it provides really important habitat for important things like resident and migratory birds. So this, I just want to call your attention to the latest data that we have available of tree canopy. And canopy is just the cover, that overstory of trees that helps to provide us shade. Canopy is not distributed equitably. So Manhattan's right in the middle. The average canopy in New York City as of 2017 was about 22%. Manhattan is right about in the middle. But when we look at a more granular level, as you see on the right, the story is a little bit more complicated, and we start to see some of that difference. We also know that from 2010 to 2017, tree canopy did expand on the whole across the city by about 2%. But at the same time, where you see these yellows, reds, and oranges, we did face some meaningful loss in a lot of communities. Much of this loss, we believe, was due to major storm events. There are some other causes, but that's the primary cause. So we know that while part of our canopy is expanding, we are also facing loss in certain neighborhoods. So I wanted to just take a bit of a deeper dive into Manhattan so you could see your own community district. And so, you know, here looking at Community Board 11, as of 2017, you all had about 18.75, so nearly 19% canopy cover. So lower than that citywide average. But the other thing is, though, that you did see canopy expansion in that time period from 2010 to 2017. And from our perspective, we'd like to see that canopy continuing to expand if that's a priority for your community. We've also recently released an analysis, which we call our practical canopy analysis. It looks at how much and where we can expand tree canopy if you don't really rip up any concrete or make any major landscape changes. And you'll note that Community District 11 actually has quite an extensive amount of practical canopy. We think that a lot of trees could be added should that be a community prerogative across different property types, again, both public and private. And were you to realize that full potential, you could actually achieve about 32% canopy cover. That would take time and it would be complicated. I don't want to, you know, pull the wool over your eyes, but it would be important. And I think that the borough president's vision for 1 million more trees, coupled with our goal of 30 by 35 canopy cover, is a great way to get there. I will note that we don't only want to plant canopy where it's easy to, we also want to plant trees where it might be harder and where we might have to pull up concrete if we are serious about equity. So One of the biggest concerns we have is not just planting, it's also protecting and maintaining the existing forest. You can only achieve 32% canopy in your community district if we protect and maintain the existing trees. And so our vision really includes both, and yet we know there's not historically sufficient funding for full protection and maintenance of New York City's trees. Our trees face climate change challenges of pests and pathogens. They're not managed across the board consistently and in a positive way. They can be removed, and there hasn't historically been a coordinated planning and cohesive vision. So to that end, we launched Forest for All NYC. I'm going to apologize, y'all. I'm losing my voice a little bit, so forgive me. I try to be enthusiastic, but I know I sound a bit more stayed today. So Forest for All NYC is a coalition of over 70 organizations. I will note for you all that I'm so honored to be with a few of our members here. We Act is a member and Randall's Island Park Alliance are members. So pleasure to meet some of your leaders. Our vision really is to protect, maintain, use, monitor, understand, promote, and expand the urban forest in New York City. We have a very diverse and inclusive coalition. I realize this is a wall of words, but we have more than 70 members, ranging from environmental justice organizations to government partners, to real estate, to business, and to environmental organizations, to community organizations. So I'll also do a quick plug. If you're part of another local organization, or if you know of one who might care about our mission, it's free to join. We love having new members. We are committed to human health and well-being, to adapting to climate change, to ensuring environmental justice, to really making sure that there's a good understanding of the urban forest resource, and to working both citywide and locally. Our urban forest agenda, and you can read this online if you care to, has 12 goals. Our top line goal is to achieve at least 30% canopy cover by 2035 equitably. And so this is what really led us to be enthusiastic to coordinate with Borough President Levine's office. But just a few of the other goals is we also want to support local urban forest plans and goals, which is part of why we're excited to be here with you tonight. We believe that the city needs a comprehensive master plan. There's a tremendous workforce opportunity. You heard about some of the employment through Randall's Island Park Alliance. We know that a healthy, robust urban forest will offer us employment, and a whole set of other actions relative to improving policy, budget, and research. How can you get involved? So obviously, Keisha and I are here tonight to, have you consider passing a community board resolution in support of the growth and maintenance of the urban forest. We're happy to provide you any educational materials as background, whether in writing or in presentation. Our website has a lot of information. We have social media, and we really do want to, encourage you to support the Borough President's Good Million More Trees initiative, and of course to endorse the New York City Urban Forest Agenda. So this is my contact information. Anybody's welcome to contact me, and let me hand it back to Keisha.
Emily, thank you so much for that presentation. Here at our office, our goal is to hopefully pass the resolution unanimously in the borough of Manhattan, and subsequently unanimously in all 5 boroughs. So we have a coalition with our fellow borough presidents in hopes to be able to push this agenda forward. I want to highlight what Emily mentioned. Hopefully everyone here had an opportunity to take a look at the suggested language. Once again, it is suggested language. We do encourage that it be tailored to the needs of the community board, which is extremely important. We want to make sure that all of the details that are in there are reflective of this area. So once again, we really would be super grateful to have the community support for this initiative. And thank you so much for welcoming us here tonight and sharing some of your time with us. Thank you.
Thank you both. This is really exciting to see. Our committee has been focused on issues of environmental justice and health equity for a while now. So this is something that's been top of mind. So it's great to see this moving forward. One thing I did want to point out is that we have later on our agenda tonight, Marielle from Pop-Up Forest. So I think there's an opportunity for collaboration there, and hopefully you all will stick around to see their presentation. We can find ways to collaborate together. Otherwise, I just wanted to note that street tree implementation and maintenance has been something that we've noted in our statement of district needs and budget pretty consistently. I think, we've typically seen trees put in and then not maintained. So in any implementation of the Million Trees initiative, of course, we would like to see not only equity when it comes to coverage to make sure that neighborhoods like East Harlem get more trees than neighborhoods that already have a lot of trees might get, but that those trees are equally maintained as they are in other neighborhoods. And then yeah, so I'll just open it up for questions, but one of our, our procedures, I'm pretty sure we already discussed it, but usually our process is to hear a presentation, and we usually take the next month to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row. It's very difficult to make a letter of, recommendation or anything in the moment. So it's just helpful for us to have the time to craftfully put that together. So our goal would be to revisit this at our February meeting and to consider a letter of support at that time, in which case that would be carried through full board, and depending on the direction, you would get that in at the end of February, if that sounds okay to you all. Okay.
Yes.
Are there any questions? Are there any questions for Forest for All? Michelle?
Hi, thank you for your presentation. And you said that you would be able to offer further information for the following week so that we can make a proper decision and a proper letter. I wanted to find out how your funding is for specifically the maintenance of these trees, and for how many years will that funding be for?
Yeah, so let me make one quick distinction. So Forest for All NYC is an advocacy organization. So we ourselves are not able to, unfortunately, fund the whole thing. We do a lot of advocacy, and last year our advocacy actually helped retain a significant amount of the Parks Department maintenance budget for trees, ranging from tree pruning to stump removal. And one of the reasons we launched Forest for All NYC is simply that there has not been a strong enough advocacy community for the protection, maintenance, and planting of New York City's trees. So we are fully aligned with you, and our goal of 30% canopy cover by 2035, you can't reach that if you don't protect and maintain what you have. You cannot reach it simply by planting new trees. So one of the reasons we're working to grow this initiative is to create a louder voice, both through community boards, through city council, and hopefully through city hall, that will adequately and genuinely effectively fund this asset. So view us more as a bit of a call to action. And, Keisha, I would certainly want you to speak to this as well, but I have heard, the borough president vociferously commit to understanding that there is a need in the Million More Trees campaign, both to plant and to maintain.
I 100% echo everything that Emily just mentioned. That is one of the major asks, of this initiative, is our commitment to funding. So yes, we know that it's extremely important. It's a need, and the borough president is 100% committed to lending his voice to continue to ask for said funding.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the public? One more minute for the Million More Trees campaign. All right. Well, thank you so much. This is something, we're really looking forward to. So really appreciate it. And we'll take the next month to define our next action, and we'll keep you updated. Thank you so much. All right, we will move on to our second presentation. This presentation is an update on Pier 107. And so we will be hearing a few updates from Parks and EDC. And then there will be just sort of ask for feedback for a potential adjustment. So just wanted to make everyone aware that we've been speaking with parks, and they want to bring to the table something that is an option that we can consider the impacts of. So just want to leave this with an open mind as you hear what's coming before you today, and know that everything we do moving forward is a collaboration. So I'll pass it over to Parks, Sarah and Grace and Meredith.
Thank you. Happy New Year. Thanks for having us. It's a project we've been to you a couple times, and just as we were ramping up, and now we're ready to invite you to our first community meeting and give you like a brief project update and introduce a couple of items. So Meredith, are you starting? I think it's yours, or Catherine?
I think Fernando was going to start. I'm not sure.
Okay, then hello everybody. I'm just jumping on to say hi.
I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Hi everybody. I'll also be presenting along with Meredith, Mary from NYC Park.
Great. Thank you all so much for being here.
Hello.
Hi, Fernando. Nice to see you.
How are you?
Good.
Can y'all see my screen? Do you see like the full screen presentation or like, no? Okay.
Khalid, just want to note the chat for you in case you didn't see. Looks great.
Great.
Perfect. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Fernando Ortiz. I am the Assistant Vice President for Government and Community Relations at the New York City Economic Development Corporation. And we are joined by NYC Parks. I think Mary introduced herself. If not, Mary, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Mary Easley. I work along with Sarah Nielsen and Grace Kang on the Parks Planning team. We also have here Ricardo Hinkle, who is our landscape architect for Manhattan that's on the project. I believe that's everyone from Parks. And then, of course, Meredith can do the EDC introduction.
Happy New Year, everyone. I'm Meredith Simon Pearson. I'm a project director at EDC's Capital Program. And I'm managing this project on behalf of Parks, and I'm joined by Catherine Rubilski and Fernando, who are also from EDC.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Awesome. So this is a EDC Parks project, and today we're here to talk about 107th Street Pier and Bobby Wagner Walk, this reconstruction project. We just want to give some updates to CB11. So we'll talk about upcoming community meeting and survey that we have up on our website. We'll talk about the project goals for this project. We'll talk about the artist selection process that we have ongoing, and we'll talk a little bit about the pier siting. Next slide. So on January 25th, we will be having a virtual community info meeting. We highly, highly, highly encourage everyone on this community board and, and the community at large to join us. We'll share more information and details so you guys can all spread the word, but we will be having a community info meeting on the 25th. It will be virtual, which I actually just came out of a community info meeting, and we had 140 people. So, virtual meetings have really become very popular. But at this meeting, we'll be talking more about the pier siting, the project in general, and it'll be the first of many community opportunities to engage around this project. And if you scan this QR code here, it'll take you to the project website where you can take the survey and see other upcoming events. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we have a survey. The survey is currently live on our website. Again, if you scan the QR code, it will take you to the website. We can also put in the link to the survey and our website in the chat. We have it in 3 different languages. Highly encourage everyone, if you haven't already, to check out our survey and participate with us. And with that, I will pass it on to my colleagues who will talk a little bit more about the project itself.
Thanks, Fernando, and thanks everyone for having us tonight. Before we dive into details, I just wanted to remind everyone of the scope of this project. So this project is going to do Esplanade repair and rehabilitation from 94th Street to 107th Street and 117th Street to 124th Street. And it's going to completely demolish the pier at 107th Street and rebuild it. And our goals are to bring the site to a state of good repair, restore public access to closed areas like the pier, which is currently closed, elevate for sea level rise, enliven the waterfront, provide a high quality design open space, and bring some more community supported uses to the pier. And we were here a few months ago, right after we kicked off our design in August. And our first, as Fernando said, our first community public meeting will be in January, and we hope to see many of you there. We wanted to talk tonight a bit about our artist selection process and schedule. So the pier and Esplanade will have a public artwork located somewhere on it. We are not married to a location on the pier or the Esplanade, where the project is open. So the artist selection process.
Hey, Meredith.
Sorry,
yeah.
Meredith, I think the slide is lagging.
Yep.
Oh.
We're still on project goals.
Yep.
There we go.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you. I have a lot of screens happening here, so. So as I was saying, the artist selection process will be an invitational competition for artists whose past work is compatible with the scale, location, and materiality of this project. And the artists will be selected by an artist selection committee, ASC. And on that committee will be someone from EDC, someone from Parks, someone from DCLA, but we're also seeking 3 to 4 community representatives to sit on that selection committee. Nominees may include public artists, critics, curators, or art historians. Recently, we sent this call for artist selection committee nominations to the community board leadership, and that should have been shared around, but it's also posted as a PDF on our EDC project website, which that QR code will take you to, and we'll also post that in the chat. You can see here on the left some upcoming timelines. So we're looking for those recommendations from the community board by January 15th, with the first ASC meeting being in February and the final selection by the ASC for the artist happening in June. So if you're interested, you can email this email address that's here on the slide, and that email address and all the details are also on our EDC project website as well. So I will pass it on to my colleagues at Parks to talk about the pier.
Thank you, Meredith. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us tonight. So I get to talk about the fun part, which is what we're thinking about moving forward for the project itself and the pier. So as everyone is aware, the pier is currently closed due to its structural condition. It has been since 2018. And currently it has been a bit of a challenge for people to reach from a pedestrian standpoint and from an ADA standpoint in terms of wheelchairs getting up these steps. So for this project, we're not just trying to rebuild the pier as is, we're hoping to imagine it in a way that is more dynamic and useful for the community. So that's kind of the place we're starting with for this conversation about the pier, how to rebuild it better next time. You can go ahead to the next slide. Great. So one thing that's really interesting about the stretch of river is that historically there were many piers along this stretch. In addition to 107, there was a recreational pier located just across from Thomas Jefferson Park. This was well before the FDR was built and it was demolished. So there is actually precedent for multiple recreational piers along this riverfront. And this really got us thinking about the idea of possibly rebuilding the pier in a location that makes more sense from an access standpoint and an amenities standpoint. So kind of taking a cue from this historical view, we really started to wonder whether 112 could be a possible better location for the new pier. You can go to the next slide. As I mentioned, access is a little tricky at 107th right now. In the red, you can see the existing pedestrian bridges. We've got one at 111th Street, and then another down at 102nd, right near the Wards Island pedestrian bridge. Also in yellow, those are bike routes. So kind of thinking about how to improve connectivity for multimodal access. There are some upland amenities to consider. As I mentioned, Thomas Jefferson Park is just across the bridge at 111th Street. And currently at 107th, you really have to walk up or down to reach any amenities. So just something to think about as we consider which pier to put where. And this is really what we're hoping to get community input on as we move forward. If you could go ahead to the next slide. What we're really hoping to get input on is whether we could move the pier to a new location, for example, 112, keep it at that current location, and really get a sense of what the community values in the new pier. We're hoping to build something that is useful, that reflects the community's priorities, and that really allows people the best access possible to those amenities upland. So as you recall from earlier in the meeting, we actually are hosting a meeting on Wednesday, January 25th. Go ahead to the next slide, where we're going to be diving more into this question of pier siting. We have a few diagrams that we look forward to sharing, some analysis about what part of the river might be best for kind of the experience along the water. So we really hope you attend. This is just a sneak preview today about this question. Obviously at this point, no decision has been made. We're really hoping to hear from all of you about what you'd like to see in your community. This is something that we're throwing out there. We're curious to hear, and we're hoping to get feedback so we can start designing for what the community would really like to see. So for now, I'll end it there. I'm happy to answer any questions. I believe that's our last slide. And of course, as was mentioned earlier, there is a survey as well. So please consider filling that out in the meantime. And then that first community meeting will really be our first opportunity to talk in person and really start to explain what advantages there might be from a pedestrian standpoint, from a design standpoint, to moving it versus keeping it. So I'll leave it there for now, and we're absolutely open for questions. And if anybody's able to drop the project website in the chat, what you see right there is our landing page. And if you go there, this has the community meeting registration information. So if you'd like to register for upcoming meeting on the 25th, please go there. You can register. I did it tonight myself. And then the survey, as we mentioned, is up and live on the website. It's available in English, Spanish, and Chinese. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mary and Fernando and the whole team. Really appreciate this update. And just for the committees, a reminder for the committee, the goal is that, we start the conversation here, but that the bulk of these conversations might happen at the upcoming community input meeting. So this is just sort of a sneak preview. And the question is, if we have any feedback on whether the pier should stay at its current location and be rebuilt there, or if there is interest or feedback in the potential move of that pier up to 112th Street. So if anyone has any thoughts or comments, please raise your hand. Otherwise, you can register to attend the upcoming meeting and provide your feedback there. Please raise your hand if you have any questions or feedback. Diane?
Okay, where do I start? What's going to happen to the old pier if you move it up to 112th Street? What's the plan for that?
No matter what, we're planning on demolishing the existing pier due to structural concerns. So the question is either we rebuild a new pier at that existing location or we rebuild a pier at a different location.
There's a possibility that the DEC will require or request that we keep many of the existing piles in the water for habitat. So they might not all be removed with the pier.
And I guess, I'm trying to picture where is 112th Street on the pier? what's there? What's close to there? Help me out, Jessica, because I can't picture it in my
Thomas
head.
Jefferson
The
Park.
footbridge.
Thomas
Yep,
Jefferson
it's where the
Park,
footbridge.
The footbridge.
It's the footbridge.
Yep. So the thinking was that maybe the access to the new pier, if it moved up to 112, would be easier to get to because it would be closer to that pedestrian access point.
So my only comment, and I say this to the board, is how do we get this information out? Getting this information out to those people who are going to be directly affected by it. I mean, it's nice that you're having a virtual meeting and people can participate, but we want to make sure that, as you mentioned earlier, having as many people as possible who's going to be impacted by it. So that's the biggest issue to me.
Yeah, and Diane, you know, as we mentioned, we're just kicking this process off, so we welcome all suggestions about how we should be engaging with folks. You know, we're having our first info meeting on the 25th, which will be virtual. And as the weather gets warmer, you know, we're happy to think about other ways to engage, and we do have planned other meetings around this, both virtual and in person, but always open to suggestions. You know, if we need to table somewhere, if there's a community event that happens, you know, that we should be at, so open to all those suggestions as well.
So Jessica, one more question. So you're open to, what's your last timing for having a community meeting or community input on this? I'm sure you have some timelines.
We do. Do you guys want me to speak to that?
Yeah, don't everybody answer at the same time.
Yeah, so we, you know, right now this is an idea and we, you know, we want to get feedback. We want to decide pretty soon so that we can keep moving with the project and not hold it up, and we can advance our design. So we are optimistic that we would have our meeting end of January, you know, in a couple weeks. And then, you know, if it looks like it's a go, then we can proceed. If we want to come back to the February meeting, and if you all wanted to do a resolution, I think that, you know, that would be for you guys to decide. We don't want to have it take too much longer than that because we want to advance the design going forward. But again, this is kind of an idea that we're just putting out for discussion. So it isn't decided either way.
And this is Catherine Probilski from EDC. I'm sorry, I'm on my phone for audio and my computer for video. But the overall engagement, though, like we're coming to you guys right now in regards to the pier location as an idea, as Sarah said, but there will be continued involvement with the community for the design of the Esplanade and then the design of the pier, whether it's at 112th or 107th Street. We really want to hear. So the survey is to get your input on what are the things that you like to do out on the Esplanade and at a pier, and what are the things that we are going to be able to include in the design. So the design, while we kicked off in August, we have really just been doing a lot of our due diligence and surveys and information gathering and doing this analysis related to the pier. So there will be much continued involvement from this whole neighborhood throughout the design process of the total pier and Esplanade work, just to kind of, you know, bring it back to like the bigger overall project of the Esplanade and the pier design. And we can share that timeline more explicitly. Honestly, this meeting and the January 25th meeting is we've been trying to really target those to get those set. And then the timeline for the rest of the design and engagement really kind of follows from those meetings. And we're happy to share the overall timeline for the design and where we see it going over the next approximately 2 years for this total design process.
And Diane, just to reiterate, I think the potential to move it is just like, you know, if it would be a benefit. So if the consensus is that it wants to stay at 107th Street, then that can still be the path forward. But there's an opportunity potentially to move it, and it's just an exploration at this point.
I don't have a problem with that. I think in other words, the decision sounds like it's only within, or exploration, whatever term you want to use here, is only like a 2 months period here where you could get community input as well as to you know, personally, I think it might be better to go to 112th, but I don't particularly live in that area. So it's important that you hear from the people that live in that area. And also, many of the people are accustomed to going to 107th Street. So I'm just, you know, you have to weigh out what, you know, historically has been there versus the possibility of something new and exciting for the community. And so that's why I said, you know, we really do need to hear from the people who are most affected by it. I won't say any more, Fernando, for now.
Thank you, Diane.
No,
that's
important.
love you.
Appreciate it, and definitely something to consider, right? And as I mentioned, if there are other means in which you think we should be engaging, right, we're open to those, to hearing those.
Thank you.
Great. And then we'll go to Natasha. And if anyone has any more questions or feedback, please raise your hand.
So I have two kind of questions, kind of comments and stuff. I'm not sure if you can answer them now because, like you said, still in the design process. But that ramp, because I remember accessibility was something we've been talking about for a while. Is that ramp truly wheelchair accessible? Because I know these ramps can be very steep. So that's something also to think about. I'm not sure if that's under your jurisdiction to like fix the ramp to see if it could be more wheelchair accessible. And also, how much is the possibility that this would change the design of the pier? Because if you're moving it, if you think about it's different spacing, it might be the same. I'm not the professional here, but if it's different spacing and stuff like that, would we be losing stuff? Could we gain some more like from it, like design wise and stuff? So
great questions.
Thanks for your question. The first one, are you referring to the pedestrian bridge itself, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because I'm not like, is it really, because I've been on these bridges because I have walked through there. It's realistically, you could get a wheelchair up there, but it's not the easiest thing to do. So
I think technically it does not comply with ADA accessibility standards. Yeah.
We can confirm and get back to you though.
But,
That's a good question. Yep.
It doesn't have the required landings.
That's right.
And that
100%
would
design.
fall, and that would fall under whose jurisdiction? Is that DOT? Is that state DOT? Is that parks?
It might be overlapping.
Overlapping.
Yeah. I think it's probably DOT and parks.
Yeah.
Parks usually doesn't have the funding to rebuild these, but does anybody else have any other thoughts on that? That's what I thought.
Just that, not this particular bridge, but there is an improvement to the bridge at 120 further up. That one will be rebuilt. Not this one exactly, but that is some good news in the pedestrian bridge category. Regarding your second question about the design of the pier, it's really interesting question because right now, of course, the pier, it's one long rectangular piece with a raised bit in the middle. I think broadly, we're really excited to see ways that the pier could be more engaging. And so that I would say in both locations, we're looking at ways to make it more engaging. And there's no reason to necessarily rebuild it in a perfect square again. One thing that is worth noting is that further up the river, there is a navigational channel that we have to abide by from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And so further up the river at 112, it cuts in a little closer to the shore. I'm seeing my internet connection is unstable, so if I'm spotting out someone, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, Mary, if you turn your video off, it'll be clearer.
The pier might be a little wider and shallower.
I can
There
also
you
jump.
go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I heard pretty much most of what you said.
Then I'm just going to say it might be a slightly different shape for them.
So I'll just jump in a little bit. So whether we're rebuilding the pier in the same location at 107th Street or at 112th Street, we have the opportunity to rethink about what its overall shape is. We don't necessarily have to build the same rectangular shape in either location, but we will want to keep a similar square footage for regulation purposes with DEC for overwater coverage. So the overall area of the pier will be the same wherever it is, and the shape can change depending on what makes sense for what the community is looking for on the pier.
Yeah, that answers my second question. Thank you. But going back to the first one, now it's making me think, even with the 107th Street, we're still running into that problem with the accessibility, where people are gonna have to go far, and then like you were discussing before, like going far and then coming back just to be able to get to the pier. Like, now that I think about it, really the only real way to like kind of get there, like with a wheelchair and stuff like that, is to go like to 96th Street, if I'm not mistaken, to be able to cross the FDR. So that's something maybe to think about, because then it's really like the pier itself will technically be accessible, but like it's not fully accessible to everyone if you have to go far just to come back. And thinking of like the older population, they're not going to want to go all the way to like 96th Street just to go all the way back up. So it's something to think about.
Your mention of the pier, the ramps and the accessibility and the maybe even realignment of them is very astute, because we are rebuilding the one at 120th Street. So there is some thought that there will be a plan to rebuild the other two. And I think we do have some notion in our mind that either the one at 111th or 103rd Street are being slated for reconstruction, but we don't know that for sure. So we're going to look into that and try to get a little more concrete information on the status of those piers with those ramps. But those are very good questions, because when you do realign them, you do change the opportunities on the Esplanade, and that's what's happening at 120th Street.
I just got like one more opinion on that. This is just me throwing it out there. This is just what I personally believe, because my grandma's in a wheelchair and I have taken her around the neighborhood. I don't think anything is truly accessible if there's no entrance within like 5 blocks, to be completely honest, because like half a mile pushing a wheelchair is a little bit, yeah. So that's just my comment. So thank you.
That's very helpful information. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natasha. Connie?
Hi. I'm actually wondering if I have sort of a comment and then a question. Comment, I'm wondering if we can, walk the site as a committee prior to the 25th meeting. I think that would be helpful. And then my question to, I guess, EDC is about the artist selection committee. I don't remember when, but I did submit names of people for the committee and also a list of artists. I'm wondering if I need to resubmit that?
So unfortunately, we had a technical issue with our email address last year in 2022. So you may have gotten a bounce back. So if it's possible.
I had an ongoing back and forth conversation via email with, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the person's name. But she initially contacted me for recommendations.
No, I think your recommendations have been inputted. Yeah. If you were having a
I just want to make sure I don't have to put them back out.
Yeah, I think we have a consultant that's helping us with our
yes,
with
it was the
artist.
consultant.
Yes, so yes, she has reported back that the conversations and yes, we've gotten your feedback. For other folks, there is the project email address that was on the artist selection slide, and then that was the email that had a technical glitch at the end of last year. So we've asked folks to please just, if you had sent something last year, please just to resend it. And obviously, I think you know how to get a hold of a lot of the folks from EDC and Parks and Jessica, obviously, if you're concerned that your recommendations didn't make it to us. So please feel free to send those to the project email address that was on the artist slide.
Great. Thank you so much, Connie. One more comment from Diane, and just want to invite anyone from the public. If you have any comments or questions, please raise your hand. Diane?
It's just the last comment, Jessica. Are we as a committee going to make a recommendation based on what we've heard, or are we
So
going to just leave it to the community input? I'm sure there's a lot of opinions on this committee. And I think it would be good to hear it from the community board, as well as some of them have mentioned. And Natasha's, she actually lives in the area, so she's telling you what really happens. So I think it would be good for us to do that. But again, I defer, of course, to the rest of the team and you as the chair.
Thank you, Diane. Yeah, I think Connie's suggestion that we walk the Esplanade together as a committee would be great. So I'll send out an email after this call, trying to organize that in an upcoming weekend. My personal opinion is that we would, mention this at full board, as we run through the Environment, Open Space and Parks meeting minutes, to get any input from the board and the public at that meeting, and to encourage everyone to attend this meeting, this public input meeting that they're organizing. And then coming out of that meeting, I think it would be great to, whoever attends, if we could, do a quick update at the beginning of our next meeting in February, to see what we've heard. And I think from there we can decide if a letter of support is necessary, depending on, I think it's kind of hard to say right now what that direction will be, until we hear, more of what the feedback will be. And I don't think we should necessarily take a position on one location or the other until we have that information.
No,
So,
you're right.
yeah.
That's why I said to hear what the community has said.
Yeah.
We
So
all,
I think,
we all have opinions, but I'd like to hear what they have to say.
exactly.
But I think it strengthens if we hear whichever way, it strengthens coming from the community board.
Yeah. And then, it's not required that we have a letter of support.
No.
So, if we don't feel like that's something we want to do, then, we don't necessarily have to do it. But I think if there so happens to be a, congealing attitude towards one location or the other, I think it would be helpful, for the EDC and Parks teams if we were to memorialize that in a letter of support. Is that correct? Parks team?
I think that would be
Works for me.
helpful. Yeah.
Works
I
for me.
also wanted to add a little bit of information too. The existing pier at 107th Street, I believe it's about 18,000 square feet. And so we have 18,000 square feet of pier that we can reconstruct as of right. There's also a wharf at around, I think it's 111th or 112th Street. That's about 3,000 square feet that we might be removing as part of the Esplanade reconstruction. So we might have 21,000 square feet of pier area that we can reconstruct, replace somewhere along the waterfront. It's not out of the question to have, maybe one major pier somewhere and then even have another ancillary pier somewhere else. A small, maybe the main one, which is 3/4 of the area, and then a smaller one, which is 1/4 or less of the area. Because as you saw from the historic photos, there were several piers at one time along the Harlem River waterfront. So that's also an option.
Thank you, Ricardo. Yeah, I think that's an important point, that that whatever is being demolished in its current location is what would be allowed to be built in, whatever locations it is. So this is really, an exploration about what would be possible. So it's exciting to hear that there's options, and that, it's incredible that we have this opportunity to have a say. So I hope that you all will, do represent the board and the community in attending this meeting, and helping to advertise it to the people who might be interested, so that we can congeal on an option and get that moving forward, so we can have a brand new, nice, wonderful pier. Great. Well, thank you everyone so much for your time, and for bringing this opportunity forward. It's really exciting, and we look forward to the update and to that meeting. So we will reconvene at our next meeting and go from there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your input.
See you on the
Thank
25th,
you.
everybody. Okay.
Thank you. See you then.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. One more presentation tonight. So thank you everyone for sticking around. And then we just have a quick vote on the PS 108 letter of support, should we want to move that forward. And then the final item on the agenda, we will actually move to next month just so everyone knows. So we'll get to that when we get to it. But for now, we will go to our pop-up forest group. Hey, Marielle, thanks for sticking in with us.
Hi, no worries. Thanks for having me. I think my agenda item is a little bit different than what was listed in the actual agenda. So apologies for that.
No problem.
But I wanted to, and this is also going to be really short. So hopefully that's a good thing. What we, and a couple of my colleagues weren't able to make it, so I apologize for that as well. But I'm really excited to be here and talk to you about this potential project. So I am a botanist in New York City and have been doing work around connecting New Yorkers to nature for about 20 years. And one project that I'm working on most recently is called Pop-Up Forest. And Pop-Up Forest is essentially taking nature and putting it in places where you don't normally see it to call attention to the fact that nature, we should have more opportunities to interact with nature. So one of the, the idea that I wanted to propose was to really beautifully piggybacking on the presentation that was given earlier for the Forest for All, and talking about all the ways in which New Yorkers benefit from the presence of trees. It's, myriad. So thinking about that, what would it take to have more nature in under-resourced neighborhoods, and what would that look like? So that's the idea behind the pop-up forest, essentially, is that it would be, and it would pop up. So essentially it would be about 10 foot by 7 foot or so activation that would be used to beautify and to cool a location in the community board. So the exact location would be something that we can all discuss and determine collectively. And the activation would be in one of the hottest parts of the year. So it would be either August or September. And what would happen is essentially overnight, you'd have like a little mini forest within that space. So the space would be an activation of living plants. So there would be trees as big as we could get them, which might not be that big, but we'll see what we can do. Because a lot of it is up to existing regs. But trees, and then underplanted with shrubs and wildflowers, and a backdrop of Inwood Hill Park as background. So the idea is that it's almost this, you're being transported to a wooded area. And we would focus on using species that are native to New York City, so it would create habitat for local pollinators. And so this forest would be temporary, and it would remain on site for about a week. And it would also include an area for sitting, so some kind of a bench or other, sitting to be determined. There will also be daily activities. So we would have talks, giveaways, and have an open discussion around the importance of these kinds of connections for New Yorkers with nature. So that's in essence what we're looking at. And then afterwards, so it's up for about a week, and then what happens afterwards. So afterwards, again, we're working in collaboration with you all, but the plants would get a second life. So they would be donated to either a local community garden or public school to use for an outdoor classroom. And then we would be working with, if it goes to a school or even a community garden, I would work with them on the best ways to plant the plants. And if it's with the school, then we can also do a curriculum where the kids have hands-on opportunities to be able to work with these plants and better understand the nature of New York. And this is especially relevant for elementary school kids. I know I've done this work a lot in Brooklyn, where second graders learn all about New York City in their social studies classes, and then fourth grade learns about New York State. And so those are really good tie-ins for this kind of work. So now I'm going to try to share my screen. Let's see. So you can get a sense of what I'm talking about, because I know it's a little abstract. Okay, here we go. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see that.
Yes, but it's not full screen. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. I mean, I think it's big enough that everyone can take a good look at it.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's essentially what it would look like. And I've done these pop-ups in other locations in a couple other cities, and then also in other locations in New York. But I wanted to do something, I was really eager to do something with Community Board 11, because there are so many issues around equity and areas being underserved by trees, as was stated so eloquently earlier. But also I think, we can have this more expansive conversation around what do we want the places where we live to look like, and why is our infrastructure so like 19th century, where we have room for lots of other things, but not the living world that's all around us. So that's essentially what this would be. Again, it's temporary. It's sort of an art installation, I guess, although I'm not an artist. The point is to really be finding ways to shine a spotlight on the importance of nature in New Yorkers' everyday lives. And that's it.
Great. Thank you so much, Mary Ellen.
Yeah.
Just for the committee's knowledge, we had a call a couple months ago, I think now. Time is meaningless to me, I guess, but it was great to hear about this project. And I think we talked about, the potential to collaborate with some of the great community-based organizations in our neighborhood. There's a lot of different people and groups focused on these kinds of things. And, for example, Green and Blue Eco Care, I know Simone is one of the champions of nature in the neighborhood. And, we've talked about maybe a partnership with potentially Uptown Grand Central. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to, share the collaboration of this project with all of the existing fabric that we have in East Harlem. And I think that a lot of partners would be interested in collaborating on this. And just to clarify, I think I just wanted to confirm what the ask was as well for the community board.
Oh, well, so the ask specifically would be, is this something that you would want to see happen? And if so, can we partner? And, I would then be looking for funding to support this project. And then it would be, collaborative all the way, where we're talking about and making decisions together. We all have different areas of expertise. Mine's obviously the plants, and but I look forward to hearing what everyone else can bring to bear. And I want to also yes, and you did say that, and I think in my mention also it was about, or for the agenda, it was about federal funding. And I am talking to some organizations, and forgive me, but it's too early for me to sort of state it on the record, and I know this is being filmed, but organizations that are looking to do this kind of work, and then have them be something where there's this kind of collaborative work that's being done with communities, but there would be like a lot more funding for it. So this could potentially be a model for work that we could do in other parts of of CB11, but also throughout the city. This should be something that everyone has access to. And then furthermore, I just wanted to say that with regard to trees, I recently wrapped up a series on WNYC's Brian Lehrer show, where we were looking at trees over the course of a year, and I came on every month and talked about a different aspect of New Yorkers and trees with an expert And Brian and I just wrote an op-ed that was published in the Daily News yesterday, and I'm happy to share those. But that will also give people maybe a little more context and understanding of, what my, I guess, perspective is on this. But I'm also happy to answer questions.
Great. Yeah, I'll open it up for questions. And if you could share those links, and congratulations, that's all very exciting. So I'll go to Natasha and Connie.
All right. So I have a couple of questions for you, and they're kind of all scattered all over the place. So I'm gonna try to condense them as much as possible. You mentioned events while the week that the display will be up. This is also like more like a suggestion. Are you open to, if it's by schools in the area, are you open to talking with the schools beforehand to see if it could be a short little day trip that the kids could like go outside and look at it and maybe get some of the information, like a little tour and stuff like that? So that's my first question. So I'm not sure if you want to answer that.
Yes. I think you read my mind, because that would be amazing. I want to give as much to CB11 in this project as I'm able to. And like I said, I've been doing work with kids, mostly in Brooklyn, because that's where I live. But I've worked with a number of Title I schools. And so and also just in the work that I do, I lead a lot of programming around connecting people and kids, especially with nature. So that would be really dreamy and wonderful. The goal would be, let's have as many people in CB11 coming out to this as possible. Absolutely the schools, also maybe senior centers, who are the people that you feel would most benefit from seeing something like this. It's supposed to also be joyful. I think so much, my background is as an ecologist. That's what I have my master's degree in. So I'm a scientist through and through. But one of the things that makes me really sad is the fact that we talk about all these things and we never talk about joy. And I think that the joy that humans get from being in nature is one of the most important parts of all of this. And so let's find ways to make this beautiful, really underscoring connections for the community, and whatever those talks are. Again, this is collaborative. Who do you want? What topics do you want to hear? Who should be some of the speakers? And this would be very collaborative. I'm not going to come in and with an agenda. It's just very much like, let's work on this together.
All right, that actually leads to my next question, comment. I don't know whether to call these questions or comments. But you mentioned elementary school, and I think you briefly mentioned middle school. We have only, as far as I can recall, David probably could correct me on this, we only have a couple of high schools within the district. So maybe even just when we're doing, because I just graduated high school. I remember 9th grade we did living environment, which is a lot. It's basically like biology, but not biology. So it involved the trees, it involved the life cycles of plants. So that's something to think about. Maybe asking the high schools to see if the 9th grade classes can come. And also senior citizens, we think of the centers, but I think also maybe we have a couple of, well, I know there's one specific building, because my grandma lives in it, that is all senior citizens within the building. So maybe asking the building manager, and it's NYCHA, so maybe go to NYCHA and ask if you could put up flyers within the building to see if that could happen. And yeah, so I think that was it. Oh wait, no. And my last question is, after the display is taken down, you spoke about the plants being donated throughout the neighborhood. How would that specifically work? And also maybe a suggestion is maybe a community garden. If you put it in the community garden, that seems like a lot more accessible point than the schools, and maybe see if the community garden and the schools, and you can maybe collaborate in a certain way for all of that to come together into some sort of program. This is just me throwing ideas out there, but yeah, so.
I appreciate all your ideas, and I might be, I would love to, continue this conversation and get a sense of the places where, the places to go and target in particular. So yes, so definitely making sure the community knows that this is happening and the different kinds of talks and things that could happen. So in terms of where the plants go, in the past, like I said, I've worked with schools in Brooklyn, and when I've done pop-up forests, they've typically gone back to either a school. In one case, it went to a pre-existing community garden, but all of these spaces are pre-existing. So that we know that there's already stewards of these spaces who will be able to care for the plants. And then I typically work with teachers and students, or if it's a community garden, then I'm working with the gardeners there, talking about what the plants are, and like what the plants' names are, what their roles are, the way that they act, what do they do, why are they important for our local environment. So sharing my knowledge, and then also gaining knowledge from the community as well. So there's a lot of reciprocity there. But again, I think that would be up to, the community board and other decision makers, people who want to be involved in helping decide where these plants would go. I welcome all of it. So I think that would be really wonderful to explore. And I just wanted to say, oh, sorry, not to interrupt you. But I think the class that you're talking about, so living in the environment, is biology, but not biology. And that was like, yeah, that's ecology. And so we think about biology as like about ourselves. And so now I'm getting like personal. I went to college as a pre-med major, and I kind of hated it. It was like blood makes me faint. So that was like a bad way to learn about that. But I loved the living part. And so I ended up pivoting to ecology. And that's where I came into this field. And it's not like my parents ever went camping or anything. Like I grew up in Elizabeth, New Jersey. So, like my parents never talked about nature. I don't know. And I feel like I learned about this because I had really good teachers. And so my goal in my work is to always be giving back and be that kind of teacher that helps spark something for someone else and kind of, maybe like helps just get people really excited. And there's a lot to be excited about. And so any opportunity to be able to do that, Natasha, I'm going to be looking to you to help me figure that out.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. It's been a while.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, and just for the future, if you do decide to go like within the schools and stuff like that, David Giordano's also on the call. He's the chair of Youth and Education Committee. I'm the vice chair, so just contact us for down the line if you decide that you would like to go into the schools. We would love to have you present to our committee also. So thank you.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'll just add quick, because I'm driving, Natasha and I both work with Children's Aid Society at PS 72 Lexington Academy. So we haven't into a school to begin this work. So sorry to interrupt.
I think there's also a garden on the roof. Also, I'm not sure if that's still there, but yeah.
Great.
Yeah, they still do have a little garden up on the roof, but it's very sparse space. But, there's always things that can be looked at and make more beautiful in terms of plants or trees. So we would definitely love you to come to and particularly the after school program, and talk about it, teach kids some of these things so that they take pride in their own community and the trees and the plants that are in our neighborhood. So, but I will leave it up to my vice chair because she's been doing such a great job. So.
Great. Thank you both.
Thank you so much for answering my questions.
Yeah. Yep. And thanks, Natasha, for all your feedback. It's really helpful. Connie, and then if anyone has any other feedback or comments, please raise your hand.
I'm sure we can come up with lots of really wonderful places to do a pop-up forest. Ideally in the middle of the street on a meridian or something like that is treeless. 106th Street would be pretty awesome. But my question is, this is a lovely idea, but what is the logistics? I mean, what would be, I look at public art proposals all the time, and if there isn't a projected budget in that proposal, I kick it back. So I would want to understand, do you have a projected budget? Including how funding would be raised to meet those budget expenses.
Yes, I do. And I have potential funders lined up as well. So in terms of funding, that's, yes, lined up. But it's something that, I would still need to put in because I'm looking to do this, like I said, collaboratively. And so it would be something that would be part of the application, letting them know that I'm working in partnership and this has been approved by the community board. So, and then in terms of site logistics, like I said, I've done this a number of times. And so I have a lot of the actual logistics of setting this up and taking it down pretty down pat. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. There was several years ago a public artist who did pop-up gardens on DOT sites in, I think, both Manhattan and Brooklyn. You may be familiar with those, but I think it goes back maybe 5 or 6 years. And it sort of very much reminds me of that, although his was really like, wasn't a forest, there were no trees, they were just small plantings and it really like almost like community gardens, but just out in the street. Maybe it might be a good idea to collaborate with an artist.
That's possible, although that's possible. I guess, I don't see these as art. I know it sounds like art and looks like art, but to me, it's not art. It's like, ecological agenda activations, I guess. And I think that, a lot of, and now I'm just sort of, a lot of environmental art that is directed at climate and directed at ecology, in my opinion, misses the mark. And I think that this is thinking about, there's a lot of discussion around climate, and everyone knows we're in a climate crisis.
I made that suggestion really more for funding purposes.
Oh, I see.
You would
Got
have
it.
a revenue stream,
much
larger revenue stream for raising the money to do it.
Yeah, but the opportunities that I have, that I potentially have, don't need an artist involvement. So it's not set up that way, if that's helpful. But I think, in thinking about this, it's, and I appreciate that you brought up the gardens, but I would say that this is a little bit more than that. We live in an age of a climate crisis, but we actually have 2 global environmental crises, and the other one is the extinction crisis. And although we live in a city and the city is hardscapes, New York City has lost native flora and fauna. We've lost native wildflowers. In fact, and that's a lot of the work that I've done in the past. And I think it's important to be thinking about what are our aspirations as New Yorkers in living in a city, and ways to be able to connect to that nature. And so it's not about beauty, but beauty is an important component. It's about ecological functionality. It's about green infrastructure. But the original infrastructure, like green from plants that have been around in New York City, millions of years. So
I think that in a way here, you're almost preaching to the choir, but
no, I know. But
I'm a supporter of rewilding in urban environments.
Oh, great.
And I am extremely knowledgeable about all of the above. So I was really just wanting to have more of a sense of the logistical planning and budgeting and all of that. I do think it's a lovely idea, but from my personal point of view, I would just need the, you know, the sort of the logistics of how it's actually set up, attached, the engineering of how it's inserted into the ground and those things.
Right. Well, that's something I could follow up with, but it's not inserted into the ground. It's surficial. So it sits above the ground. It's not planted in any way. This is just, it's only up for a week. So it comes in and then it just disappears. So there's no footprint of it having been there.
So in most sites, it would have to weigh at least 800 pounds in order to get approval from the city. Because that's what they require for that type of installation. If it's on a street site, it would require an engineer's report so that if a truck hit it, it wouldn't get, you know, flying into the air.
Right.
Anyways, that's what I mean by the you know, the logistics.
Right. And so a lot of that depends on the siting within, you know, the community board. And so that would be something that I would be looking into, you know, but yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Great. Well, I'm going to move the meeting along. I think, thank you, Connie, for those questions. I think definitely constraints are something to look at, and you know, that can be part of the process as this all moves forward. Natasha, I wanted to give you one more chance, and I just wanted to know also that Sarah Nielsen from Parks asked in the chat how it would be watered and how the water would be brought in.
Just quickly, could you remind me of the projected timeline? Like, because we're already in January, so I'm not sure if it would be spring you're trying to do this. And I'm not sure if that's necessarily possible, or if you're thinking like early fall or something like that. So that's my question.
Yes. So timeline would be August or September, not the spring. I'm particularly keen to have it be when it is hot, you know, and we'll see what how different logistics bear out. But to have it be at a time where it's also able to contribute local temperature mitigation. And I think that would be that would be something interesting to be able to do. Yeah, so the timeline is not spring, but it would be like late summer, early fall.
And just the question about watering, if you have an answer for that, and then we'll close out.
Again, it depends on where it is. So, you know, I'm on site for when these are up, I'm on site every day. And I've had, it depends, you know, I've had partners be able to water. In some cases, I've done the watering. So it's just, you know, there's no way to answer that question because so much of it depends on where it's located.
Great. Well, thank you so much for bringing this to us. And I think it's really exciting. And I think what we'll do is, you know, we'll consider, as we discussed with the previous presentations, we'll think about it over the course of the next month and revisit a letter of support in the month of February. And we will, you know, continue to share with you any ideas for collaboration. And if you could put your information in the chat so that people could reach out to you with their thoughts and opportunities for collaboration, I think that would be really helpful. There's a lot of great minds in this committee and a lot of great opportunities. So thank you so much, Marielle, and I'm looking forward to your project moving forward, and happy to help as much as we can.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed talking to everyone. I appreciate it so much.
Great. Thank you so much. Connie, is that an old hand? Just checking. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. So that's the last of our presentation. So we will, and Natasha, maybe if Marielle, if you could circulate that presentation with us, we'll share it with the committee so they can see the image of the installation. That would be helpful. That's our last presentation. Our final items on the agenda is the draft letter of support for PS 108 Peter Minuet Playground. Hopefully you all had a chance to look that over. Do you have any questions or comments or edits to that letter? Do you want us to pull it up and look at it?
Yes, please.
I can pull up the letter if you'd like, Chair. Give me 1 second.
While we're waiting, David, you have your hand up?
I will wait because I was going to make a motion to support.
Great.
So I will wait.
Thank you. And Natasha?
Oh, no, I was gonna second it.
Okay. Great. Nope, you had it. Now it's gone. Khalid, now we're looking at your Google Drive. There it is. Okay. All right. Can you scroll down? Yeah. So this basically summarizes that Principal Gladstone presented to the students video on their aspirations for the park with a name that better reflects the context and history of the neighborhood. So we would be supporting the renovation with the future renaming, mentioning the budget requests that we've made in relation to this project. A few ideas that the students presented included additional seating, activating the unused handball courts. They wanted to maintain the existing dolphin feature on the park and the trees and plantings that are there. The future renovation of the park should, consider it as a joint operated playground, repair the gates and fences, provide a clean and safe environment. And then also the implementation of that funding that was is being held until the end of the construction of the school is completed. So we want to make sure that doesn't get lost somehow in the mix. And then we would, the third paragraph goes into the request for a key for the school to use the park gates so that their morning operations can be executed with as they should. And then after our support of the New York City Soccer Initiative, requesting support for the school to help fulfill the commitments that were made, including the programming, the coach equipment, maintenance of the court, which they have not yet had. Any final questions or comments on this before we move to the already stated motion to approve?
I do have a quick question.
Yes.
Because I see the word kindergarten playground. Is there a difference between that and a regular playground? Is that like a smaller one?
Yes.
I know
Yep.
this school goes up to a lot bigger than kindergarten.
Yeah.
And also, I'm not sure if I missed it or if we can necessarily put in some sort of request for the because I remember he mentioned the needles all over the playground after the after it's open at night.
Yep.
So would that be something we could request, like some sort of like needle cleanup or something?
Yeah, I think that was part of the goal of
It
the
was?
providing a
Okay.
clean, safe and clean environment, but we can add in specifically the needles if that would be helpful.
I think that might be because we don't I think being a little bit too broad could cause a problem in terms of the needles will just be left because the people who are cleaning aren't necessarily specialized in disposing of them. If that makes sense. Like I'm not sure how that
Yep.
will work.
Yeah, maybe after providing a safe and clean environment, we could say from especially in regards to needles. I don't know. How would you want to phrase it, Natasha?
I think that makes sense, especially in regards to used needles being found on the property often. I'm not sure how necessarily we could word that, but yeah.
Providing a clean and safe environment. Maybe we can just put in parentheses, including needle cleanup.
Yeah, that would make the most sense.
Okay. Okay. David, I see your hand up for a motion. Do you accept that edit?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
All right. Do you want to restate your motion?
A motion to support
the playground at 108 and renovations. I thought you already kind of stated it, but the letter is a support letter. So a motion to support the letter to make improvements to the 108 playground.
Great, thank
PS
you.
108.
And Natasha, you were seconding?
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. All right, we can vote.
Okay, members. Diane Collier,
Yes.
Jessica Elliott,
Yes.
David Giordano,
Yes.
Alonzo Johnson is still absent, Jewel Jones,
Yes.
Connie Lee,
Yes.
Malik McCullough,
Yeah.
Malik, thank you. Debbie Quinones is still absent, Natasha Rodriguez,
Yes.
Russell Schuler,
Yes.
Michelle Wiltshire Clement,
Yes.
Jordan Wright.
Yes.
Thank you. Chair, it's a unanimous decision.
Great. So the last item on our agenda was the HAT study. Obviously, we're out of time tonight. And thankfully, they've extended the timeline. I was worried that they didn't because I saw as of last week, it still said January 6th. So we do have time and space to consider this further. After this meeting, and I'll circulate an email with reattaching the document for your thoughts. So if you could please layer in your opinions as we move towards a public comment on the study. The final, obviously we would have to make a motion on this in our committee in February in order to bring it to full board to get it in time for the extension. So please, collaborate on that with us, and we would like to move that forward next month. Are there any other comments or questions on the old business? All right, moving forward to new business. Is there any new business? Seeing none. Let's see. We will proceed to the final roll call, or can we let that previous vote serve as a roll call, Khalid?
If you'd like, Chair, the members are just like, nothing has changed so far as the participants.
Okay, yeah, let's let that count as the roll call. If there are no objections, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all. Great to see you. Happy New Year.
Sorry I was late. Happy New Year.
All right, bye all.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Khalid, I'll call you early tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry about today. Been a long day.
No worries. Don't even trip about it. We'll talk tomorrow.
Okay, thanks.